Hey kiddos, it's Mrs. Schmidt, and I am on today to talk to you a little bit about biomes, to review a little bit about biomes, and to talk to you about the biome that Lewis and his family live in. So I have a fantastic book called What is a Biome? And right on the inside cover is a really fabulous map. And it talks about what a biome is, and I know you guys are a little familiar with this already, but it gives you a color-coded map of biomes. Those biomes are huge natural areas of land on Earth where certain plants grow. Certain plants only grow in certain places based on the rain that falls or the snow that falls, or the lack of rain and snow that fall if it's a desert, and also based on the temperature of the air and the climate. So once you get inside of a biome, and here are the major 7 biomes on Earth. There are forests, grasslands, shrubs, and scrublands and desert. There are mountains and there are tundra. Once you get inside of the major biomes, kiddos, and those are the major ones. There are 30 in all, but some of them are smaller and fit within the larger ones. You can see a little bit of a pattern in what happens in those biomes. Biomes are usually made up of smaller areas called an ecosystem. So, for example, in the Trumpet of the Swan, as you know, Sam Beaver and his dad are hiking and camping and hanging out in the woods next to a lake. Now, the woods are one ecosystem, and that would be where a lot of woodland animals would live. But there's also a pond where the swans chose to nest. And there's also a lake where Sam's dad is catching fish, and those would count as different ecosystems because different animals and plants live there and eat different food webs and food chains. So take a look at this map of the major biomes of the world, and as you can see, when you're looking at the equator right in the middle, the equator is where the warm biomes are. So when you're looking at the green forests of the world, and you're looking at the equator, those are not forests that get cold in the winter like the forests up here in Illinois. They'll stay hot year round, so they're called tropical forests. And when you're looking at the deserts, those are places that receive not much rain, and those are deserts in different areas. And then you're going to see some mountains, some purple mountain ranges. A lot of them are nice little stripes because mountains often go in ranges north to south depending on how they're being pushed up on the ground. And you're seeing some other ones too. The tundra is cold, and so you're seeing that way up by the North Pole because it is the coldest spots on Earth. I'm going to skip ahead and just talk to you a little bit about the kind of a biome that that Lewis would be living in. But before that, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about biomes. Biomes blend naturally into one another. A grassland biome, for example, might end at the edge of a forest or even a wetland. Some animals migrate from one biome to another when the seasons change. A lot of birds migrate from one biome to another, boys and girls. Many birds visit several biomes in search of food or nesting areas. Even butterflies migrate. Butterflies in the winter go down to the forests in Mexico, which are tropical, and then they come back up here to our grasslands in Illinois during the summertime. They don't hang out here in the winter because there's nothing for them to eat in the snow. Birds do the same thing, boys and girls, as a lot of you I'm sure know. Depending on one another, the plants and animals in a biome depend on one another for survival. Plants provide food and shelter for animals, and then animals help spread the seeds of the plants, and then other animals will eat the other animals. And then the sun is part of it because the sun comes down and helps the plants to grow. And then when this animal, the apex predator, which nothing is going to eat, dies, what it does is it doesn't become the lettuce plant when it dies. It lays down on the ground to die, and its body decomposes and breaks down, and whatever's in the body, its bones and its minerals and all of its body parts, break down and become part of the soil through decomposition, boys and girls. And then the soil is richer, and it actually uses tiny little minerals from the animal's body to enrich the soil to make the plants grow bigger and stronger. The flow of energy of living things in a biome flows from the sun and down into the plants and through all the living things. The more daylight hours the biome has, the more sun energy its living things receive. Plants trap the energy of the sun and use carbon dioxide in the air to make food. They are the only living things that can use sunlight to make food. Animals, of course, we know don't make their own food because they can't trap the sunlight's energy. To get energy, plants, or animals rather, must eat plants or other animals, and they call that a food chain. Food chains then are linked together to make up a food web. So I want you to take a look at this picture. Is that a food chain or is that a web? A web is more than one food chain linked together, kind of like a spider web links more than one different strand together. I'm going to say that this is a food chain and that bunnies probably eat more than just lettuce and coyotes probably eat more than just bunnies. And so there might be a different chain with different animals and plants eating one another that would be linked to this one by the fact that they're in the same place. Now, kiddos, a biome has a climate, which is a predictable weather pattern over a long period of time, like say 30 years. And when we're talking about plants and animals that live in a biome, they depend on its climate. When weather changes from day to day, that's fine, but a climate is what we should actually expect. So rain or snow in the winter and colder temperatures, and slightly warmer temperatures right now in the spring, but a lot of rain, and warmer temperatures and warmer sunlight in the summertime. The location of a biome can affect its climate. Like I said, being near the equator makes them warmer, as you can see from this temperature map. Being near the equator makes them the warmest areas. Being the farthest from the equator makes the areas the coldest. And being in between, a little bit between the pole of the equator, right over here, gives us different weather. Animals adapt to biomes in different ways. They learn to have a taste for different plants depending on what grows in their biome, or for different animals depending on what grows in their biome. They also adapt. These three animals are all three foxes, but they live in very different areas. This one lives in the Arctic. It has thicker fur and it's white to camouflage it, to protect it. And this is called the Arctic fox. The red fox that lives in meadows around us has medium-sized ears, and those ears let some of the body heat escape in warm weather by pumping hot blood in through the ears so that the breeze can blow through the ears and it actually can cool, kind of the way we sweat by pushing our hot fluids out onto the surface of our skin. Now, if you take a look at the fennec fox, the fact that this one has very small ears to keep all of its warmth in, and this one has medium ears to keep all of its heat sometimes in, but sometimes let some of it out through those ears. If you look at the fennec fox, I bet you can predict that this one lives in the warmest temperature of all because it has those large ears that give off extra body heat. So those are adaptations that a fox might make depending on where it lives. Now, we do know that there are forest biomes, and that certainly Lewis and his family lived on the edge of the forest biome in a pond and later in the Red Rock Lakes next to a mountain in Montana. However, we're going to skip that one because that's not actually where he lived. They didn't live in the forest. They lived in an ecosystem at the edge of the forest biome or in the middle of the forest biome. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the ecosystem, the freshwater ecosystem. It says biome, but we're going to ignore that. We're going to talk about the freshwater ecosystem. As you can see, this pond or lake is on the edge of a forest too. Ponds and lakes just don't exist. They have to be on the edge of stuff. And like we said, sometimes biomes border each other. So a freshwater biome is filled with water that's not salty, like the ocean. There are two kinds of freshwater biomes. There are rivers and streams with moving water, and there are lakes and ponds that have slow-moving or still water. Lewis and his family lived on lakes and ponds and not in moving water. Less wildlife grows in rivers and streams because it's just washed away by the current of the water. Some freshwater animals have adapted to living in rivers so that they're not carried away. Fish always swim upstream, and other creatures can hold onto rocks using suckers or slime. When we talk about the plants that Lewis's family feeds on at the bottom of the lakes and the ponds, underwater plants need to stay close to the water surface so that the sunlight can reach them, because even though they live underwater, they still can get sunlight to make them grow. Some freshwater plants, like water lilies, grow flowers and leaves that float right up on the water surface. In ponds, just like a lake, ponds also have still water. Many types of plants and animals live in ponds because they are not in danger of being swept away by a current. No two ponds have exactly the same plants and animals, but water lilies grow in almost every pond. Most pond animals spend their time looking for food. So this is a beautiful cross section of a pond ecosystem, a pond or a lake. This is just fresh water. You have, what are those called? Cattails, which were on the edge of the pond where Lewis was, on either side. You have water lilies, which have very long stems that go down to the bottom, but float up on the surface to catch the sun's rays. You have pondweeds, which Lewis and his family like to eat, but you also have the animals that also like to eat the pondweed and eat other stuff around there. And then you have the birds floating aloft on top. So boys and girls, I hope that helps a little bit with talking about the biome that Lewis and his family live in. And I hope that it helped you with a little bit of biome study.